Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful tasting with the Virtual Tasting Society. Today, we're excited to welcome a new brand, someone we've recently discovered, someone that was referred to us by our friends at Raising Glasses. You may remember them for the rum and single malt tasting that we did, single malt and a little bit of grain. So Pablo is here for Catador Itinerante. I can't pronounce it. I mean, I've got.
No, that was almost perfect.
Okay, great. I'll take it. A new independent bottler focused solely on world whiskeys, if I got that correctly.
Yes.
You are bringing to us two new countries, four single casks from two from Germany, two from Austria. So we're really excited. I've made it a mission to try whiskey from everywhere in the world, and you're helping with that mission, so I appreciate it. It sounds like we have like minds. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your evening and for joining us. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the brand and take it away.
Sure. And before people jump into the lineup, I mean, we're gonna try the first one in a few minutes, but the order, if you see the biggest number that you're gonna find in the I don't know how they were labeled, but it's we're gonna start with Schlier's 7 year, then Schlier's 9 year, then we're gonna go to Broger 13-year-old, and then Broger 10-year-old.
Wow, so it's in proof order, essentially.
It's essentially in proof order,
Perfect.
and
Jane got it right.
and maybe by coincidence, maybe not, but also from more subtle and delicate to more complex and layered.
Yeah, I noticed the proof on some of these. You did not hold back. That's a pretty impressive. Those are some bangers in there.
Yes, all of them, and actually, people that has the 10-year-old Oloroso that is 71.6%. Uh, Technically, you cannot bring it in a plane, and some people have done it, but not a good idea. And one more thing is that these are all available online. I can share links in the chat, and I created I created some coupons for tonight. Unfortunately, I learned that they cannot be combined. So it's either a 5% with the Austrian or a 10% with the Germans. If you buy both of them, you can only apply one of the coupons. Uh,
Unless you do two separate orders.
that's true. But you pay shipping twice.
Ah, there you go. Okay, gotcha.
But and also the shipping, it goes through a partner called Big Thirst, and I think I don't remember the limit, but you can buy several bottles with one shipping. So either my bottles, or if you want to add bottles from Racing Glasses, it's I think it's only one shipping.
Great. Well, thank you.
And the labels have no proof, somebody says, so I can also add that
Oh, we have ABVs, not proofs. It's the same thing. Everybody knows how to multiply by two or divide by two.
yeah. So can should I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I have some links here, um, and I can talk later about this. Let me go to the chat 1 second, and here it's okay. I put some links there, a link to my website and my whiskeys, then the online bottles from Racing Glasses, who are my distributors and friends. Uh, we got the two coupons there. My Instagram, very important. I'm trying to grow followers. So if you guys are on Instagram, are interested in getting the more updates from Catador Itinerante, uh, Itinerante Cata is the user. Then I put some other links if you want to follow me. And the last link, it's a new documentary about independent bottlers called Independent Spirits by Greg Schwartz. He's the director of Water of Life. So the world premiere was in March in Edinburgh, and I was lucky to be there. And Actually, while I was in Edinburgh, I visited Port of Leith. It's a great distillery if you are in Edinburgh. And because today is Passover and I cannot drink whiskey, I'm gonna have a port, and this is a port from Port of Leith. It's actually a port from Portugal, but this is made by the Port of Leith partners. They're gonna get their port cask from this company, and it's a delicious port. So I brought it with me. So I'm gonna be at least drinking something. Now, a little bit about myself before we get in the first whiskey. And while we try the first two whiskeys, I'm going to show you a presentation by Schleers, the distillery in Germany. But, I moved from Argentina to the US, to New York, to study film around 20 years ago. And I come from the technology sector. And, little by little, I got hooked by whiskey, first as a consumer, then as a hobby, as a collector. And in 2019, I started a blog called Catador Itinerante, which in Spanish means itinerant taster. And that turned into a podcast also, a radio podcast that I have also in Spanish, where I talk to industry folk from Latin America and Spain, and also some whiskey as an excuse to talk to artists, people, political analysts, etc. But the cool thing is that around that time, I was falling in love with both independent bottlers and world whiskies, and I decided I wanted to start creating a company that would bottle world whiskies. I love in the expressions from legends like Scotch Malt Whisky Society, Gordon and MacPhail Signatory. We have in the US an amazing bottler called Single Cask Nation. But these bottlers usually have access to incredible casks because some of them are like 100 years old or older. So like Cadenhead. So I knew I wouldn't be able to compete with this, finding similar or better casks that they have. And also there were so many bottlers, and I keep on seeing new bottlers, that I started thinking about world whiskey. And occasionally you can find independently bottled world whiskeys in some of the bottlers, from the most established distilleries. But I wanted to travel, and I wanted to discover my own, like I call like hidden gems. So in 2022, I turned 50, and as an excuse, either for my birthday or as an excuse for work, I went to Europe for 2 weeks. And I was lucky that by the time that it was my birthday, two big festivals were happening in just 1 week, in 2 different weekends. Like one was the Whiskey Live Paris and the other one Whiskey Show London, where I managed to talk to a lot of distillers from around the world. And one funny thing is that I spent like a year doing research, creating a huge database of distilleries from around the world, but based on online. So I would find websites from the 80s, that green screen with a picture of the owner, and I'm like, is this still alive? Or they would say like, come to the distillery to try our last edition from 2013, and I'm like, this was 10 years ago. So a lot of those websites ended up not existing anymore. Of those, or I also saw many whiskey distilleries that whiskey was a little part of their business, but they were also mostly doing fruit distillates, or they have farms, or they have like milk, caramel, jelly, and then one whiskey. And I'm like, I would love to visit them, but I don't think this is the type of whiskey that I may like and bottle. So talking to a lot of these distillers in the two festivals, was an eye-opening for me because many of them were like, I would be interested in working with an independent bottler that is dedicated to world whiskey. And I'm like, so why you didn't answer my emails? Because I was also sending a lot of emails that were like either bounced back or not being replied. But between those two festivals, I rented a car and I went to 8 distilleries in Switzerland, between France and England. So it was Switzerland, Austria, Germany, and Belgium. And here we are with the Schliers, which is my editions number 3 and 4 from 2025. My first editions are from last year, Brogger, that I'm going to show you when we talk. So if you don't have any questions, we can start with the first expression. And the first expression, it's a 7-year-old. Schliers, it's a company, and if I can share my screen, I have a presentation that they sent me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Share, and I'm gonna do this. Okay. So this is the biggest selling distillery in Germany. So it's not small. And one interesting fact that they bring to attention is that they have more distilleries than in Scotland, almost in Germany, but no more than 20 of them dedicated exclusively to whiskey. As I mentioned before, many of them, the place is beautiful. They are in Bavaria, in an area called Schliersee. That's where their name comes from. And it all started around 1994, but it wasn't until 1999 when they started distilling, and they were kind of using another distillery to distill this and make these whiskeys. So it's not until 2006 that they construct the distillery that exists today. That is a great place to visit. And they kept on growing through the years. There's some awards that they are sharing here. And it's a company, and we're going to compare later with the Austrian whiskies. They produce 90,000 liters of whiskey in the distillery a year. And remember that in Scotland, to give you an idea, there's some distilleries that produce a couple of millions a year. So this is, even if it's a big distillery, it's relatively small compared to Scotland. And remember this number, 90,000, because when we talk about Austria, they distill 1,000 liters a year, which is nothing. It's like a hobby for them. And they have a very different approach to distilling. Another interesting fact about Schliers, and we're going to talk in a few minutes about this whiskey that we are trying, but I want to show you the stills. This, as you can see, they are a very interesting shape. They are copper stills, and they do double distillation. The shape is different, and they use this sort of helmet on top that kind of reminds them, it's like a tribute to these typical eau de vie stills that they produce fruit distillates too. And the brick that you see here is decoration. They don't put fire there. They don't put pizzas. No. Better pizzas in San Francisco or California. But, it's a beautiful place. I recommend a visit. This is their branding, and well, there's other things that we mostly know about what is whiskey. The barley is local barley. They are lucky that they are in Munich, because one of the biggest barley producers in the world that caters the breweries in Germany and other countries, it's in Munich, Weyermann. They are now kind of switching to a different provider, but this is Munich barley, and they are sharing here some charts about production. And in the meantime, if you wanna check this, I'm gonna tell you that the whiskey that you are trying is very delicate. I love the nose. I would use that fragrance in my wrist because I love how delicate it is. It has a little touch of sandalwood, but also it's very fruity because they distill very clean. They like controlling the environment in the fermentation. They have a very small cut where they get rid of a lot of what they call off notes. The second distillation is just the heart, and it's very very delicate. So there, it's 3 years in American oak, in virgin American oak, so they don't use ex-bourbon cask in this case, and 4 more years in Sauterne cask, which is a relatively sweet French wine. Now you can see that the French wine, and I would love to hear your opinions after this, but you can see that the French wine comes into place, and that's why they like to distill so clean, because they want the sort of the cask speaking by itself. And in this case, it's not completely virgin oak the first 3 years because they use a second fill, but it's not a second fill. We are used to second fill ex bourbon or ex sherry. In this case, the first fill was their Schlier's classic malt, I believe, for 3-4 years. Usually they or for 4 to 6 is a classic malt, but they use this with their own clean, fragrant, sweet distillate, and in this case they emptied it and they use it again. So, but the cask does not contain other spirit. It's just their own whiskey. So 3 years in American oak, 4 years in Sauterne, 7 years in total, and a very nice, approachable fruity spirit, which is 55.4 ABV, and all my whiskeys are single cask, cask strength, non-chill filter, non-color added. So they keep on talking in the presentation about their process. They have about 5% angel share a year. So the through the years the ABV doesn't change as much, and again, a very nice place to visit. I'm gonna stop sharing this, and I can also share some of my pictures from my trip, photos. Yeah. So this is the first picture. It's funny because I arrived late at night in the middle of nowhere. It was very dark, and I went to that hotel that was one of the cheapest, very close to the distillery. And it was so small that they asked me, at what time are you having breakfast tomorrow? Because we only have like 6 to 8 tables. And I'm like, this is very different of our American experience in Holiday Inn or others hotels that we can find in a highway or hostel, because this was my breakfast. And for the price that I pay, I was already excited in the morning before going to Schlier's. And we can see here, it was a rainy day. We can see here that a lot of people were waiting for the distillery to open and start the tours. They were coming in buses. There's a lot of local tourism there going to the distillery, and they have a very nice showroom. So it's a very very well done whiskey, and a company that they know how to do their marketing, and really really a nice tour because they have other products. This is their mascot, and really a nice tour because you go through all the processes. These are the stills that I show you. The last one that you see in glass, only the excise man can access, or in Europe it's very controlled every drop that you take, and sometimes you can even have to set up an appointment if you wanna sample a cask, even if you are the master distiller. That's how tight it is. So yes, it's a very, very, very nice tour. They have a
how we produce, and so he was really
they have
surprised,
a nice
by
warehouse. These black ones are like Oloroso, and well, that was me much younger without a white beard, and this is outside of the distillery. The cows are chilling, the mountains are there, so beautiful, beautiful place to visit. So I'd like to hear if what do you think about this one before we move to the second one.
It's really lovely. The estery notes are really wonderful. There's not too much oak, not too much vanilla. It's pretty
Mhm.
well balanced, and especially considering how hot it is, really. I'm curious, do you know what kind of yeast they use? It is a brewers or distillers? Do you happen to know?
That's a great question. I I don't remember what type of yeast they use.
Okay.
And I'm just going through my notes right now. um,
It's okay if you don't, just thought I'd ask.
no, no, no. Great question, and an obvious question too. So yes, I'm gonna share with Vadim when I have the information. I see that they are very classic, but considering the culture, the brewing culture in Germany, and also in my last trip to Edinburgh when I was in Port of Leith and also in Holyrood, they are experimenting with, at least in these two distilleries in Edinburgh, with so many yeasts that I wouldn't be surprised that it's becoming a little more common in distilleries around the world to play with some different yeast. It's a great question. Thank you. So
Finish on this is so lovely. It just keeps going and going. It's so fruity and interesting. Just enough spice to kind of remind you that it's a whiskey. I'm really enjoying this. Just the finish.
yes, it's beautiful. And the reason I wanted to bottle this, when you try the Austrians, you're gonna see how complex and bold, and how it's almost like a punch in your face. And I wanted my next two editions to be very delicate, because I want to show diversity. I want people that try the whiskeys that I'm gonna be bottling as a window to the world, to kind of surf a wave of different flavors and styles. And one thing that I love about bottling world whiskeys, and that I discovered through my journey, is that I have this kind of preconcept that everybody wanted to be as good as Scotland, and I took that almost from the all the stories that we hear about Japanese whiskey, that it starts with the Yamasaki and Nika as founders visiting Scotland, studying in Scotland, working in the navies, or I don't remember, it is in Springbank also, uh, and trying to replicate Scotland in Japan. And then they, through the years, they added their own style. But it was always, we can do, Japan was a little bit of this culture that of imitating and improving, like they do with cars, with watches. And I kind of thought it would be similar in whiskey. And obviously, most of these distillers that I'm finding, Germany, Austria, Finland, the Netherlands, they love Scotch. Yes. None of them will tell you, "Oh, I hate Springbank. I hate Lafroy, Glenmorangie." No, I mean they all love their Scotch, but they are pioneers in their own lands, and the culture, and whatever they brought from previous generations, and what is local elements. I think that's the most beautiful part, where they are very proud of the whiskey that they are making with their own touch. So this is great. Um, Now, any other questions, or we can move to number two?
I do have a question, Pablo. So
Yeah.
first off, I really like this first one. It's the fruity and floral. Reminds me of like a liquid, but with a punch, right? Because it does hit a little bit in the end. The question is, a lot of independent bottlers, if they're, big brand in Scotland, some independent bottlers will try to find a cask that's different, right? That somehow makes it different. In your case, because you're going to some of these distilleries that are smaller and that not well known, are you trying to find something that reflects kind of more closely to what makes that distillery different, or you're still just trying to find that?
That I love that question, and it's a yes and no because I mean the first questions that I used to ask these companies were like, do you have samples of something that is as local as possible, like finishing local wines, local barley, local everything, because I wanted to bring exactly what the all the local aspects. And two funny things happened with a distillery in France and with Schliers too. A sample that I ended up not bottling. Uh, so the distillery in France sent me a Pinot cask, Pinot Noir, and they were like, this is when I asked more details about the cask, if I am like, can you give me the name of the whatever, the vineyard, I don't know, they were like, this is a wine from Oregon. And I'm like, are you serious? I am bottling French whiskey, and you're giving me a cask that it's Pinot Noir from Oregon? And they are like, well, the wood is from a cooperage in France, and it's a great quality. But then they sold it to an Oregon company. They put the wine. When the wine was empty, we love it so much. We tried it. We know them because they also import wines into the US, and they know them and blah blah blah. So I'm like, well, it's not 100% local. And then I talked to Schliers, and Schliers showed me a beer cask, and that beer cask was beer from France. And I'm like, here we go again. So at that point, it's like, yes, if you have something special, if you have something local, I would love to try it. But at the end of the day, I have to like it. If you show me something that is oloroso from sherry from Spain, but it's beautiful, it has the Spanish accent, but the reality is that I prefer to bottle that one. So I'm just go with whatever samples I get, either in person or at home, and I'm like, these are my best samples. I talk to a friend that I trust. I talk to John and Lori in Raising Glasses. Sometime with Bikram Singh, owner of Norfolk Wine and Spirits here in Massachusetts, that I trust his palate. So yes, these things at the end of the day is something that I like, and every time that I bottle something new, it's gonna be hopefully something that I didn't bottle recently. Like the next Schliers that we're gonna try is Pinot de Charan, which is sweeter. It's almost like a fortified wine, I think, because it's also made with brandy. And if the next two editions that I want to bottle, I receive samples from another distillery in another country that they have a Sauterne and Pinot de Charan, I'm gonna be like, I just bottled that. But I always going to keep on trying to find the local elements, and then whatever they do best. Like when I was in Belgium, I was in a distillery that they mostly do ex-bourbon cask. And that's still amazing because it's almost like almost like the original whiskey. I mean, there's so many finishes after the 80s and 90s, after Glenmorangie and Balvenie started exploring wood. But if I find a great ex-bourbon, I go for it. So this brings us to number two. which is edition number 4. It's 2 years older. It's 9-year-old instead of 7, and it's 3 years in Virgin American oak. This time it's not second fill. This time it's 3 years in a Virgin American oak and 6 years in Pinot de Charonne. I think it's pronounced, uh, um, and very sweet wine. It's gonna be sweeter, but it's gonna have more wood influence. So it's gonna bring other layers. It's starting to become a little more complex and more interesting in terms of discovering notes. So I leave you with that. Um,
So I have a question. It's basically a follow-on to
yeah,
whomever asked the last question. These two are just blowing my socks off. These are great. And they're hot, right? But they don't necessarily taste hot. And I've added water. I added water to the first one. I haven't added it yet to the second one.
yeah.
And it, it could handle the water just fine. Anyway, how much of what we're tasting is what if we went to the distillery, we would taste this, or how much of this is you selecting the right barrels, and this is like the de la creme of what they have.
Well, first of all, I can select a great barrel. I mean, but it's still their 100% their work, right? Because I don't add anything, I don't remove. It is how it comes.
Right,
Um,
but they do what they need to
yes,
bottle their own whiskeys, and they bring the alcohol levels down, I've noticed,
yes,
etc.
yes. And they love finishes. One of the pictures that I show, probably I show it too fast. Uh, let me go here pretty quick.
Yeah. They've got
Photos.
Tokai, they've got all sorts of
So one of
Marsala.
the yes, I there you go.
Ooh,
So all these are different finishes, and I believe these bottles are around usually 4 to 6 years old. And actually, the Marsala I love. I brought it home when I visit, and it's usually 3 years in classic and 1 to 3 years of finish. Classic, I mean American oak. And they like this. And they have a lot of these. You don't see single cask in the distillery, to one thing. They don't do a lot of single cask. They work with certain private editions, like I've seen some cask in the distillery that there's a name of a company or a name of a group or a club. So they work with this project. That's why they were able to sell me some casks. And then from a list of 10 things that I tried, these were my two favorite. I tried another Oloroso that I really liked, but I ended up bottling the Austrian last year. And when I called them back, like 8 months later to try it again, it was gone. And also, I didn't want to bottle another Oloroso because there's an Oloroso from Austria that I bottle. But it's a little bit of the great job that they do. You're gonna try something like the Sauterne in the distillery. It could be a little younger and it could be a little more approachable and less ABV. But it's a bit of both. It's finding the right casks. And whiskey is the whiskey experience. I think it triggers everybody triggers different notes from their past, which is amazing. Some people will love something, some people will hate the same whiskey. So maybe if we pick together next time, maybe we disagree. Maybe you are like, this is way the best, and maybe I'm like, oh, but I like the other one. I'm not sure about this one. In this case, I'm trying to bring my experience and also double checking before bottling with a couple of people I trust, because also I have to sell this. I may love something, but then it's such a small percentage of people that will like it. And I'm already in a niche inside a niche. being the first niche independent bottler, the second niche whiskeys of the world. So when you see my whiskey in a whiskey store, nobody knows what it is. So if on top of that people try it and it's too weird, I'm getting too against the corner, right? But I try to bottle things that I really like, and I think people will like. So what are the notes in the second one? Who wants to tell me?
I can tell to a certain degree that these are both German because they have a certain flavor in the back of my palate that remind me of a really good German beer. So I think it's maybe just the way that things grow there. But this, you get the Pinot de Charente right off the top of it, and it is just such a fantastically delicate whiskey, and it's hard to believe that this one's higher proof than the first one.
Interesting.
It's still got the higher proof, that slight burn in the mouth, but the flavor is just intense, and all of those fruity notes that come from the wine are present, but it doesn't mask the whiskey that it's supplementing. So I'm trying to think of a good way to put that, but this is just a really delicious whiskey.
Thank you so much. Yes. And I get a little bit of I got many notes, but if I have to compare the fruitiness in both, the Sauterne is a little more greenish, more like green apples and honey, and the Pinot is a little more red. It's like red apples and caramel. I don't know, but still, you get that grapey, winey feeling of the wines because those first years in American oak are bringing the wood, and then the rest of the finish is just a lot of fruit going on.
The
Yeah, to
second
me,
one sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead, Jim.
Well, to me, it's just it really sings Pinot. It really hits me. I live in Pinot country. I'm in Oregon, so it definitely. And I work in the industry. So anyway, I drink a lot of wine, and this one just punches through with that Pinot really nicely, really nicely.
I was going to say that the second one is really interesting because even though it starts sweet, what it ends is tannic, but the tannins are not, to me, are not grape tannins. They're more like apple peel tannins, which is super unique.
Yeah, the first one for me was honey and granola, and the second one is more like iced pound cake. It gets desserty and sweet and it just changes completely. I think for both of them, I was expecting more fruit, but the biggest thing I get from both of them is the grain without it being grainy. It's more like it's bread and baked goods and you can almost taste I swear it's got to be in my head, but there's almost a beer quality to it where like literally like there's just it's not the yeasty side of the beer, but it's just like if you just took a really good German Pilsner and distilled it, this is what you would get.
That's amazing. Thank you.
To me, I think that I hear what you guys are saying about the beer. To me, it's the long, super long finish.
Mhm.
And beer gives a long finish in my mind. And so for me, the long finish kind of is indicative of beer. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but yeah, these are both fabulous. I thought for sure I tasted the first one. I was like, well, he's not going to top the first one. And we got to the second one. I was like, wow, this is so great. Really good.
That's good to hear, I'm taking notes for your notes because I usually in my website I don't put my own notes. I put notes of people that tried it. So I may add some of these that I love. So yes, very clean distillate, and this is something that I've talked to a distiller recently that told me you need to recycle um, uh, heads and tails. You need those off notes, and most of the people do it. And Schlitz does not. Schlitz wants a very, very clean fragrant distillate and a lot of copper contact, slow distillation. And you're gonna see now when we go to number 3, it's gonna be like, whoa, these distilleries are like 3 hours away driving, but this is 2 different planets. Uh, so so if you're okay, we can we can continue talking about Schlitz. I mean, we can talk about Schlitz later too, but if you want, we can move to number 3, and if you want to continue enjoying these two, or leave a little for later to compare. But I'm gonna share my pictures because I don't have a presentation for Brogger, but okay, give me 1 second that I have to do a search.
I don't know about anybody else, but the first note that hits me, or the first thought that hits me when I take a nose of this Broger is brandy.
So this Brogger, okay, I can share now. This is my first edition, right? This is the one I fell in love last year, and I can share now. And this is actually one of the first companies that replied to my emails years ago. And they said, we would love you to visit here, but you're gonna have to come at night because during the day we have other jobs. And that was like the first indication of, whoa, they are small. And it's a very professional hobby because it's a family of 10, 15 people, from grandma in quality control to the grandchildren in marketing. And this is Bruno Brogger, one of the master distillers. And take a look at what I've seen when I arrived the distillery at night. Look at this place. So that's the still. It's a Carl still. It's a very well-known steel maker in Germany. This is a copper steel, but it's silver because they say it's easier to clean, but inside it's just copper. And this is the only steel they have. So they do double distillation in the same steel. Once they finish the first one, they transfer to a tank, and they clean, and they grab the cut, and then they distill again in the same steel. And this is it. It looked to me like a living room. They have another place that I didn't see where they work with the barley and everything, but Bruno is a hunter, a bunch of things here, and I try all these Broggers, and some of them were really impressive. And this is where they keep their cask, which is, so again, it looks almost like a bunker. It's like a 30-40 cask here. Many of them are small, and they have more cask in a bonded warehouse, obviously, that belongs to the government. And so this is a distillery that distills, and this is Anna, in the daughter, that is the one that I was going back and forth, that has the best English one of the best English in the family. So, and that's it. That night, this is a hotel. So actually, that's all I can show you from Brogger. Close to the distillery, they are in Klaus. This is already Rankwell, but close to the distillery, you can see these mountains. But from here, I went to another distillery the next day in Austria, and then I went to Switzerland. So Brogger, very complex distillation. This is a 13-year-old that is 4 years in virgin Limousin oak from France and 9 years Madeira. And it's the longest Madeira finish I've seen, because Madeira usually you either have full maturation or a very short finish, 6 months, 9 months, a year and a half. But then nobody will leave a finish for 9 years. And when I asked him to Bruno, why you didn't bottle this before? He was like, it kept on getting better, so why I'm gonna bottle? So that shows also that they are not in a rush to bottle. If they really needed the money, they would bottle this much earlier. So I was lucky to get this cask because it's one of their first casks. It's a company, it has generations of fruit distillates, but they started distilling whiskey in 2008. This is a cask from 2010. 62.1%. And yes, obviously this Madeira comes all the way through with they like complex flavors, they love long fermentation, and this is yeah, whatever you can imagine it has it is layers. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Okay, I have to say this on the palate and everything. There's a lot of this very viscous, rich Madeira note that, and a little bit of sulfur, but the finish to me is celery, which I've never had in a whiskey, literally ever, and I'm very confused. But it's
You
interesting.
know the I don't have a technical reason behind it, but I've heard other people say fenugreek curry. It it has this kind of vegetal notes or mineral notes, and the interesting thing is that this is part of the some of the off notes that some people call and that Schliers doesn't want. They love this. They want this. They are proud of these notes. It's yeah. I think it's very complex. When I tried it for the first time, I was kind of overwhelmed by the racing figs part. Uh, I felt Madeira all the way through, but in a like a big punch because I love Madeira whiskies and they tend to be a little less in your face. Um, and I love Madeira by itself. I love port, sherry. I'm drinking port right now, but this one it's yes, it has sulfur, it has licorice. In Argentina, when I grew up, there was a candy made of licorice that was called Half an Hour. Very good branding because it was a little ball that would not dissolve. It would take 30 minutes in your mouth, and the flavor was not nice, but it was nice. So it was sweet, it was licorice, it was almost like a Coca-Cola, and kids would love it, and some of them would be like, "Oh, that's disgusting," but you would get hooked. So this a little bit also reminds me to this. So
By the way, I had the exact same thought, celery. And the same thing that you just said, Anna, I was confused. I was like, I like this, but wait a minute, what is this celery in my mouth? So
yeah,
I'm so glad you said it because I was like, I'm sure this is just me.
No, it's
also
not
bring
just
yeah.
you. If
Yeah.
celery is in my nose, not as much in the mouth, but I smell when I
Yeah.
put the glass up to my nose, it smells like celery.
You know what's fascinating? You're detecting something that I didn't detect, that I learned through people trying it, because I gave it to a person last year, and he was like all these things, like I mentioned before: curry leaf, fenugreek, uh, uh, ozone from a pool, and I'm like, whoa, wait a second. But which is fascinating, no? And that's why I decided with this first edition to put in my website tasting notes from those who dare to try it. And I didn't put any of my notes. And people also added tiramisu, flan, lit match. Uh, I'm a big fan of sulfur notes. Some people get the wrong vibe. They get like a rotten egg. In my case, when I smell and it's like a burnt match, I'm like, yes, I want one. Like Tobermory, some Mortlach, some Bruichladdis. I love that, but some people may not like it.
Yeah, this
Um,
is this is kind of well, I mean, for lack of a better term, this is fuck you whiskey. This is whiskey that demands to have attention paid to it. Like the first two, what's nice about them is they are background whiskeys. Like you can just drink those and enjoy them, sitting with friends, having a meal, doing whatever. They're enjoyable. This says no, pay attention to me. And you're not going to do anything else while you're drinking this. And it just kind of says, no, pay attention to me. Here's what I'm doing. And so it is. It's there's enough going on, and it I kind of like it in the sense that it's everything takes you right to the limit of being too much. It's almost too much sulfur. It's almost too much fruit. It's almost too much. It's getting to the rum notes of kind of ester funk.
yeah,
It's getting the vegetal. It takes everything up to the limit where nothing is off-putting. But if it was any more, if they had put this thing, 6 months more, it probably would have all fallen apart.
it's yeah, I really appreciate that. Yes, and this was my first edition, so it was a bold step for me. Distillery that distills 1,000 liters a year, family business that they tell me come at night, and I go with this whiskey to the US to stores where I the customers bring their collectibles that they bought in auction, 35-year-old Bomor, and I'm like, how am I going to compete? But it had a great reception so far. Uh, and wait until you try the last one. I'm not gonna say the F you word, but wait until you try the last one.
Uh, by
It
the way,
is.
Jace, the water just intends everything for me. I add few drop of water, and whatever Jason said that it's everything on the edge, it just intends everything.
Oh, is it intensifying it instead of making it more chill? Wow, interesting. And talking about water, uh, that's another preconcept that I had in the past that water is only needed just a few drops and only for whiskeys that are plus 60% and blah, blah, blah. And in the 7-year-old, the Sauterne, the Schlier Sauterne, the first one we tried, I think that a couple of drops of water play very well to make it more rounded because it's a little bit like a sour candy and too tannic at the end. It could be. So a few drops of water in the 7-year-old, for me, in my experience, made it sweeter and less and a little more rounded. In this case, water could go either way with Brogger, and you're gonna see in the last one that is 71.6 that you're gonna try it with water, but if you add too much water, and because I have an opportunity to see if I would bottle it at under 70%. I want a cast trend, but I'm like, the hazmat, the traveling, what if I put it at 69? And it turned into something too marshmallow, and it lost a little bit of that oloroso that the next edition has. So, it's great to play with water, to play with ice. Uh, People can have to drink their whiskey as they like, but yeah, this is a cool little monster.
It is extremely interesting, and the more I keep nosing it and sipping on it, all those, yeah, the licorice, but it's the herbal notes. It's like those bitters, right? Like a Fernet or a Campari in a way.
Hmm.
It's super interesting.
Nice, nice. I love Fernet. I'm a big fan. In Argentina, it's like the
I
national
know.
drink,
And
Fernet with Coke.
with what you said about the half hour, thing that the kids have, now I understand why they like the Fernet with Coke, because man, it's too much for
It's
me.
it's crazy, right? And sorry, you mentioned something. I wanted to add something. Uh, you mentioned about the well, I'm gonna remember.
The bitters, no.
You said what did you say before the bitters?
I said herbal notes that and yeah, just
Okay,
yeah, still
it
interesting.
slipped.
I don't know.
You know what? That triggers me This drink's more like an aperitif than a whiskey, if that makes sense. Like something that you drink after dinner to help with digestion, because it has the bitters in it, like Eladio was saying. So, um, anyway, this is just
Not sure if it's
really,
gonna help digestion, and that's
of course, but
but
this is
but
really
but you can
like,
try.
yeah, but like Jason said, this one it makes you sit up and pay attention, that's for sure. But I disagree with Jason about how the other two are background whiskeys. Yeah, I feel like you could sit with those whiskeys and meditate on them individually, but relatively speaking, yeah, those are very easy to drink. This one challenges you, makes you sit and take notice. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This one is my grandmother's shoe fly pie.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know shoe fly pie?
No.
Um,
But you
it's
got me in
Dana,
grandmother.
it's like
your grandmother must have made really not great shoe fly
oh
pie.
no, my grandma made great shoe fly pie. It was really good. It's like raisin and molasses.
Yes, the molasses.
So it's the molasses note that I'm getting from this whiskey, and I would assume it's from the Madeira and from the length of time it was in the cask. And that's
Yes.
where I'm getting some of the, I'm not getting quite the same vegetal notes, but they're there. And I'm definitely getting some of that. And I would assume the molassesy, syrupy kind of note is the length of time plus the Madeira plus the grain. I mean, this is just delicious as
And,
well.
and and you can see,
I couldn't believe the color when I poured these.
yes, you can see I have a bottle here, and you can see the color,
Yeah, the
it's
bottle
really,
was almost black.
yeah, it's very, very dark. By the way, their Madeira cask is from Enriquez and Enriquez, which is a well-known Madeira producer. And just to remind you, these bottles are 375 ml. They are half bottles, and the reason behind it is that when you see the prices, is that these are casks that were not cheap. So, and obviously working as a solo company, every single cost adds up. So, being so unique, these whiskeys, I didn't wanna run the risk of having a big bottle that is over $100, and that people will be like, I love certain things, but I'm not sure about it. So I want people to explore with small bottles, and I wish other distilleries, even in Scotland, would do small bottles. I would buy more bottles, and I would try more stuff.
Jane, I'm so glad you said the molasses, the shoe fly pie, because that really is what I was looking at. I was almost like the raisins and the dried figs, if you melted them down and boiled them and then poured them over vanilla ice cream, So I kind of take this as more of a after dinner, I'm gonna drink this and maybe go for a Maduro cigar and something a little bit darker, stronger. It's a
Yeah,
really
the
good
two
flavor.
brokers, the two brokers are. I don't smoke, but the two brokers are what I was told are very good for cigars, and we're gonna check with the next one, because the next one, what it has, and we can try the last one now. What we have with edition number 2, which is it's the only one that is not finished. It's 10 years Oloroso sherry, and the barley has been smoked with beechwood. So this is a smoky whiskey, but it's not peated. For those who are used to peat from Scotland or from other countries, this is the layer that you're gonna get from smoke. It's a little more chocolate, a little more like a mesquite, barbecue, but but you can still get all the fruit that comes from the Oloroso, but it has this extra layer. And also, even if it's 71.6, I don't think it's as hot as, I mean, I've tried 70s bourbon, not from the 70s, but plus 70% ABV bourbons, like 140 proofs. It was like ultra hot. This one, I don't know, depending your opinions. But this is another one, another little monster for to think about or to have a cigar or something.
Yeah, on the Oloroso one, the first note I'm getting is I swear it tastes like a Tootsie Roll.
Hmm.
That's funny. The first note I got out of it was something like a sunflower butter, like that nice crispy nut that just freshly ground, but it does have notes of that chocolate underneath it.
Somebody told me cough syrup, cough medicine, lollipop. Um, and
So
this
last
one, we talked before about molasses. This also could be a rum, could be a rye.
So this one, last week I was working on building a fishing net, and I was in a wood shop, and we're sanding down oak and hardwoods, and the smell just wanted me to drink it. And this tastes like what I was smelling in the wood shop as we were working on the wood and sanding it down and getting that strong oaky smell. This is what I was drinking or imagining what it would be like to drink the smell of the wood.
Interesting, nice.
Pablo, just so you know, this is being recorded. So you can come back and take these notes because that was amazing what he just said. So, I
Yes,
mean, you've got to take those notes down for sure.
yes. When I was in a tasting a few months ago, and we were talking about the Schlier's 9-year-old Pinot de Charan, and somebody mentioned like when you walk into a farmer's market, like it's the fruits, but it's also this kind of dusty place, wood. Oh, the favorites.
We flew through these, so I'm trying to catch up. We need to take a picture and the whole thing. So make sure y'all vote, and we'll take a group photo in a second. But yeah, I'm loving the notes. Keep them coming. This is fantastic. Don't if anyone's smoking a cigar, don't put it near this one. You might catch on fire.
Also, be careful with Jason's background. You don't wanna burn any of that. And by the way, I didn't tell you that I'm a I'm a whiskey author in Spanish. So I have a very nice book that is like a heavy hardcover coffee table book in Spanish. If you know Spanish, or if you want to learn Spanish, or if you want to make a gift, I see my website, and it has a lot of pictures and drawings, and I can send it to all US. And you keep
So
on
for those of
supporting
us who
supporting
are
funds for the next cask.
So for those of us who are illiterate in Spanish, there are lots of pictures. You don't need to
Yes, a lot of
actually
pictures
be
and
able to
drawings.
read.
But you know when I did these trips, and I was in the whiskey show in London, a woman touched my shoulder and he's like, "I know you from the internet," and I'm like, "I don't think so," because she was Scottish with a Scottish accent, and I'm like, I write about whiskey but in Spanish," and he's like, "Oh, I learned Spanish with your podcast," so I'm like, "Oh, we give each other a hug," and yes, you never know. It's a good way to. It's a good excuse to drink whiskey and to learn Spanish. But also being in California, you must know someone that speaks Spanish. I have to visit. I have to visit California soon.
So
It's the second language here. We all speak a little bit of Spanish. Yeah.
Great.
I had to go and get my fishing net that I'm building. So I still have to add the net part and sand this all down, but
Oh, nice.
it smells just like this. Immediately, that's what I thought of.
And
This
we're
is
all going
big.
to Rich's workshop, and we're all going to drink some of this, his workshop.
And you can see how different they are, no? Like when you compare, even between them, you can identify the distillery profile between the two Brokers and the two Schliers. But you can see when we move from the Sauterne to the Pinot to the Madeira and the Smoke Oloroso, it's a progression of layers.
Am I the only one who doesn't really get smoke on this one? Like, I mean, the smoke is there for depth of flavor, but it's not smoky per se, like smoky whiskey that we've had before, right? Like, it's not. If I know Kate's very sensitive to smoke usually, and like peat, and like this is not something that I would say is a smoky whiskey. Like, it wouldn't put you off.
Yeah,
Totally agree with you. Totally agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm
Definitely.
getting smoke as much as it's more of an umami note.
Hmm.
It's there, but it's so subtle that it enhances without taking away.
Yeah,
I,
it's kind of
I,
seamlessly blended into the sherry.
Yeah.
and I
This one's
agree
really
too.
good.
I agree too. It's a little bit of a driftwood, a little bit of a
I'd say driftwood is perfect. That's what I get. And not a smoky, but more like a driftwood sitting on the beach,
yeah,
drying out.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and someone told me barbecue, and I don't get the barbecue. I remember, I think it was a Glengarriff from Irish whiskey that they did an experiment where they smoke the cask, not the barley, not, they just smoke the cask. And I remember the taste of the whiskey is like if I'm walking through someone cooking meat. In this case, it's for me the smoke is very delicate, and it comes in my memory. It triggers a little more like a chocolate espresso note, and not strong smoke at all. It just
No,
integrates
the
the flavor of the fruit. I love peaty whiskies, and that's a very particular flavor that this one does not provoke.
I was going to say,
yeah,
if it's a barbecue, it's more of a Carolina barbecue than something further south because it's got
Mm.
that more vinegar towards the grapey side
We are
note.
coming back to all this vegetable
Yeah.
umami,
Yeah.
vinegar.
But I could see how this would be a really great whiskey to have with a barbecue.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Hold up.
Yeah.
I can see how you could also get a 375 and then turn it into a 700 ml at 40% ABV for the same price.
yeah, this is
We have
whiskey
everyone.
concentrate.
I just realized we have everyone on camera, so we're going to take this unique opportunity to get everyone to raise a glass and smile. We're waiting for you to come back, Anna. I'm glad you made it back. All right, everyone, raise a glass, smile to your camera, and say cheers. Michael.
Cheers.
Michael Anderson's just in another world. Come on, Michael. Everyone say Michael. Michael,
Michael.
smile. All right, cheers. Got it. Thank you all so much for being here. Pablo, thank you for taking the time to hang out with us. Not kicking anybody off, but it was a good opportunity to do our,
My pleasure.
our
And
toast.
any other questions? I hope you like the whiskeys. I hope you spread the word, following Instagram. Any questions, just please send me messages through Instagram or through the website, email. Sign up for newsletters, like whatever you want to continue exploring. I'll be happy to share. And
What's next? What do you have in the pipeline that you're excited about?
I'm trying to work with a distillery in Finland and a distillery in Netherlands. For now, I'm not gonna say the names, but it's amazing stuff, and
Awesome.
there are not a lot of them in those countries. And I would love to bottle whiskey from Argentina that I've been trying since last year, and it's in my pipeline. If we agree, there's great whiskey in Patagonia. Uh, I from my trip in Europe, I also met a, a distiller that I love in Denmark. There's good whiskey in New Zealand, a lot of good whiskey in New Zealand. So, and I have to branch out to Asia too. I mean, obviously, I like uh, things like Kavalan milk and honey, but you know, at some point, I'm for now. There's so many good distilleries in Europe that you know it's very tempting to continue going there, but I would like to branch out to other continents because this is just the beginning. And the idea is that I'm gonna continue bottling two at a time from one distillery. It's a good way to show different styles from the same distiller, but also it's cost convenient in terms of logistics to almost for the same price to send the cask to the US or to send to. So bottling two countries at a time, it's much more expensive. So and I want to focus in one country at a time. So I'm gonna continue the journey. I would like to bottle also American at some point. It's not priority because my whiskeys are sold mostly in the US. So here it's easier to get a American whiskey. But I would like to feature the US as one of the countries that makes whiskeys. Could be single malts, could be something else. Obviously, bourbon is kind of a protected area where there's so many single barrels out there that I'm not bringing something new, bottling a bourbon. But single malts, you know, we just know a few from the most popular. So probably there's some kind of hidden gem out there too. In the US that we have like I think there's close to 200 single malt producers in the US. So yeah, that's something to consider too.
I would recommend Westward American single malts in
Yeah,
Portland.
yeah.
They're
Westbourne, I
amazing.
know.
Once I
Westland,
finish the chapter 11.
I
Yeah, well,
know.
they're
Well,
going through it. I'm a member there, so they keep me posted on what's going on. They're going to come out of it okay.
yeah, yeah. They have a solid backbone, so hopefully they can solve it. I also love Westland in Seattle, Virginia. There's too many. I don't know a lot of single malts in the US, so that could be a nice trip to explore whiskeys here. But it's gonna be later in the like a later stage. So far, I want to continue between Europe, uh, Latin America, and Asia.
Well, luckily, this group knows a lot of American single malts. So you have a lot of resource here. Also, I work at Westland, so hi.
Oh, nice. That was one of my first actually one of my first distilleries that I visit beyond Scotland was Westland, uh, and uh, and I got I'll never forget 2583, a single cask that I brought home and I
I
fell
we
in
have
love.
that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. I would smell it for 20 minutes and I'm like, should I drink it or continue smelling? Very, very well done. Yeah, Westland I love, and I actually met Matt Hoffman both in the Whiskey Like Paris and I think in the Whiskey Show London in 2022. I think I seen him in both places. I know he's not there anymore.
Yeah, he's not, but he's still making whiskey elsewhere. Were you at Whiskey Light Paris this year at all?
No, no, only in 2022.
Oh, okay. For anybody else, if you haven't gone, it's, in my opinion, the best whiskey show in the world that I've been to. It's awesome. And it's not just whiskey, but it's really, really excellent. So, and the tickets aren't that expensive. So if you can go, you should because it is an amazing 2 days and it's not rushed. You can go around and talk to the producers for like 20 minutes and then move on to the next booth. And it's excellent. So
When is it?
it is all this year, it is September like 26th and 27th. It's a Saturday and Sunday. It's in the northwest part of, or northeast, excuse me, part of Paris.
Hmm.
But yeah,
And it's probably the biggest because it's like around 30,000 people, like 200 exhibitors. It's insane.
yeah, you can't possibly hit everything, but
Yeah.
The amount of producers I've seen there that you can't, like, we can't get them anywhere else. So it's really excellent, as Pablo was already saying, being able to find these other distilleries that you've never heard of before. And that's the best part, I think. And you see all the big boys that you expect as well, but it's a lot of great booths, and then the master classes are excellent as well.
Yeah. And
Thanks for the tip.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's
by the way, Anna will get you an inn at Westland. She's in.
Yes, I could do that.
Yes, and I was trying to do that a while back, actually last year, and I want to do it very badly because I live south of Portland and it's not that far away. So
yeah.
It's not, come visit us. You know me. You can reach out. I'll show you around. It'll be great.
you
The
got
only
it.
thing with Westland is that there's so many good single cask out there. So what can I bring different? Actually, even Racing Glasses, John and Laurie had
Yes.
a few Westlands, a beautiful. What,
Yeah, I tasted them through. I do the sales of that. So I tasted them through all that. It was fun.
yeah.
And actually, yes, we've worked with Bikram as well. So it's a good group on the East Coast for sure.
We've
Yes.
actually had a couple of of the members when we did the Raising Glasses tasting. One of our guys said it's the best Westland he's ever tasted. Ended up buying 2 cases of it.
Whoa.
Yeah, so good stuff coming out of there.
Yeah.
Pablo, we did a poll for people's favorite of the night. Which one do you think was the group's favorite? Oh, I gave it away.
Um.
You saw the answer?
No. 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 No.
Oh, okay. So which one do you think won? Which one do you think was the group's favorite?
I have the feeling that it's gonna be Schleers.
Which one?
I'm 50-50, the 7 or the 9.
Okay, all right. People voted, and yeah, Schliers took it as 1 and 2. So the Sauternes and the Pinot Noir.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
everybody, you got to go back and taste the Schliers again. And I tell you, I taste something completely different in the Pinot de Chardonnay, because after tasting the Broger, you have that all that you got the Broger in your mouth, right? And then go back and revisit the Schliers. It's just amazing. It's so different, and the Pinot is crazy amazing. After tasting what we just tasted, it's
yeah.
like I can't believe this is the same thing I tasted earlier tonight. That's how
Yeah, I
different it
agree.
tastes
I
to me.
agree, and they both are that way. The
Yeah,
Sauterne is also that way.
yeah.
It's even better.
It's
Good.
crazy. They're
It's
both
awesome.
amazing. Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's amazing to see this reaction because I mean or how this group was taking it because I've been to other tastings where um, the Madeira is the favorite, and I can see that the group is like they love Springbanks and peaty whiskeys, and they like and some of the groups they prefer the Oloroso to the Madeira. When I first tried both, I got my little preference for the Madeira because it was kind of my first edition. Uh, but every group is different. But I really love the fact that you are the favorite of the nights are the Schliers because being whiskeys that are more subtle or how I think it was Jason that said a little bit more like it could be in the background, and I didn't take it wrong at all. I mean, I think it was a great description. Uh, yes, usually I'm kind of a little a little scared that because they are more subtle or more delicate, that people will be like, "Hey, I want something different, something crazy." So usually the Madeira, the brokers in some tastings they end up being the favorites because people never try something like that, no? But yeah, this is great. I really like and well, take advantage. It's 10% off the Schliers. and
Great.
and the
I have a
brothers,
question.
they have there's a little less margin there, so that's why I can only do 5%. Um, it's a pity because they are more expensive, but but there's only room for this 5% discount. Uh, yeah, somebody had a question, I think.
Yeah, I have a question about the Pinot de Charente. Is
Yes.
that Charente, I guess. Do you know, is that white? Is that red? Is that rosé? Do you know what the, because I mean
I read
it's not that dark.
It's
So I
Pied de Charente is a white.
I'm gonna
no
post
no,
some.
there's three different colors of Pinot de Charente.
Ah,
So
okay.
I'm asking him which.
I mean,
I
Oh
mean,
no,
if it
which one they use in Schliers, I don't know.
okay, I was just
That's
curious
another
because
good question. I have the yeast and which Pinot. Um,
yeah,
but
not critical. I like it, so it doesn't really matter what it is, you know. But we're curious.
So with Schliers, was there a particular reason? It sounds like everything stopped at 3 years for the initial aging. Was there a particular reason they stopped at 3 years? Are they doing other things where they're aging it more to see what it does to do 5, 6 years before finishing? Are they was there an intention behind the three, or was that just saying, hey, it's three, let's move it on? How did they make those decisions?
it's a good question. I think they have older whiskies and just without a finish. They don't do everything in finish. Um, one of my guesses is that they use virgin oak. They don't use ex bourbon, so it's a little more intense, and it could get too oaky if you do virgin oak for many years. Uh, but that would be a great question for the master distiller, actually. Um, uh, I've seen some. I now I don't remember, but I think the classic one is 4 to 6 years. If I have some notes here, but it's not just three. In this case, because they were playing with this single cast, they after three they go. Yeah, they thought it was enough time to try a finish, and I think that most of their finishes are the 3 years as a classic, as a backbone, and then let's try the finish. But I believe they have some whiskies in virgin oak all the way to 4 to 6 years.
Do you find that they like the whiskey more sweet over there in this region?
I don't know about the region because there are many, and actually I also visited St. Kilian, another great distillery, closer to Frankfurt than Munich, and the whiskeys were very different. They were not as sweet. It could be a preference in Schliers because I tried the Marsala. It's also this similar approach to sweet, to some candy like. Um, yeah, I don't see it, but I think someone in the distillery told me 4 to 6 years. Oh yeah, yeah. Classic Schliers is 4 to 6 year old.
And I mean, this is just speculation, but I've had one or two other German whiskeys, and I think all of them you can kind of understand from a country that takes its beer so seriously that they'd also want you to taste the distillate in the whiskey. Like they're not going to be a country that, you go to some other places that are going to taste mostly of the finish. I mean, like the Austrians, it's so much about the finish in the casks and this amazing thing. Whereas it makes sense that a German distillery wants to show off its distillate and taste the grain and the background and kind of the pureness of it, even though it's a light touch. I mean, because even with the finishes, they're very light touches.
Yes, and also they are so obsessed with controlling a clean distillate, and they insist with this word: it's clean, it's fragrant, and and the fermentation is climate control. They use only the heart in the second distillation. They want to make sure it's consistent and controlled. As of Broger, if you are like, if you look at them, and they are funny. I mean, Broger, if you tell Bruno Broger, wow, I'm feeling some celery, he will look at you and will be like, good. It's they love the fact that it's different. They are proud of that. But it's not only playing with something crazy. I think it's a very solid whiskey, and the fact that for them it's a hobby, it blows my mind. Because when I try this Madeira, I'm like, please reserve this cask. And I wanted a Madeira smoked, and that I try and I love and I brought home in a sample, and they didn't have it anymore. So when I knew that I needed two casks, a few months after I reserved the edition number one, I told the brokers, remember that I bought it was 12 or 13-year-old Madeira, but smoked. Can I get that one? And I'm gonna compare both Madeira, smoked and unsmoked. And they were like, we don't have it anymore. We can offer you an Oloroso smoke. And when I tried it, I also like it, and it's different to the Madeira. So I'm like, yes, I can still play with two flavor profiles. But yeah, very hats off, very, very solid hobby, if they can call it a hobby. But yeah, any other questions? Otherwise, very happy, and thanks so much for making me part of this. And feel free to send emails, to send messages in Instagram, and happy to chat and to continue the conversation.
Awesome.
And remember the book in Spanish. Supposedly Understanding Whiskey, it's called, and it has humor, and it's my own journey plus 10-step production and education and independent bottlers. I have a guide of independent bottlers there, so it's a fun book. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Vadim, for this. Very excited to meet you and to continue meeting people. And I hope we meet some time in person.
Awesome, Pablo. Thank you so much, and definitely reach out when your next few expressions are ready to go.
Please. Thank you so much.
Supporting you.
Samir, happy Passover.
Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much.